So we were struggling with a topic to come up with for today's video.
So you guys came up with the topics for us.
Yeah, so I went to social media, and so we're going to cover just like a wide range of things from 1031 exchanges to trusts and a day in the life of a realtor, just like kind of a mixed bag of things.
Okay, I like it.
And
I like it.
We're in this great little inlet neighborhood while we do it, so stay tuned. You get a mixed bag today.
Okay, so it's a little bit of everything.
Okay,
all right, talk to me. What's the first topic?
First question came from TODD DRENNAN about 1031 exchanges.
Okay.
Just tax, what are the benefits? And
So, I mean, the big benefit really in a 1031 exchange is it allows you to sell it and essentially defer your capital gains taxes to the next property.
Yes.
And you can continue to do that over and over and over and over and over. So if you buy a property, let's say you buy a property on a 1031 exchange, well, you buy a property, you go to sell it, and you're taking all of the profits from that property and exchanging it into the next one. As long as you don't take any money out, you won't pay any capital gains. If you take some of the money out, you're just going to pay capital gains on the portion that you took out.
Okay.
So the thing is though, and this is a hang up that people kind of have a hard time with. The hang up is it has to be like kind. So it has to be a like kind property. And so what that means is you can't go and buy, let's say, a lot and then 1031 exchange it into like a multi-unit condo building.
You can't?
I don't think so. I don't think so. That's
sure?
what I've been explained. That's what's been explained to me. It has
I'm
to
not
be
100% on that.
It has to be a like kind property is what has always been told to me, because I've had people who were like, hey, look, I've got a single family home, but I want to go into multifamily. It's not like kind.
I thought as long as it was an investment, obviously cannot be your primary residence.
Correct.
That's not,
Correct.
That does not fall under 1031 exchange. Sorry.
Right.
If it was, everybody would be doing that.
Right.
So it has to be like kind, meaning investment property for income potential.
Sure.
Pretty much.
It does, and there are restrictions on that income potential too. Like you can't just say, well, I bought this property and my intention was to make it a rental property, but it just never worked out.
Mind.
Yeah, just changed my mind, or just never worked out. You have to truly show like I bought this as a rental, and in fairness though, if you say like, look, I bought this as a rental, here are all the marketing efforts and all the things I did to try to rent it. It just didn't rent, and now I want to sell it and get out of it. You may have an argument there, but that's a very
kind of
great. It's a weak argument, but you'd have to, like, those are the types of questions that I'll get sometimes. I'm like, listen, I don't know. Let me send you to the experts. So
let me call an attorney.
Well, or the 1031 exchanges themselves. Like, there's what's called an intermediary. So when you do this, what happens is you buy the property and you're getting ready to sell it. So you're going to have all that money will move into a 1031 exchange intermediary. And they hold all those funds.
Right. In an escrow account.
In an escrow account. Yeah, so in an escrow account, while you look for the next property, there are very, very specific time frames. So the timelines are, I believe you have 60 or 90 days to identify the next property and 180 days to close on it.
Yeah.
Now, the 1031 exchanges, though, are going to help kind of direct you on that stuff. So I'll be the first one to tell you, I've done a couple of them. I have not done a ton of them.
We love 1031 exchanges, though.
I do love 1031 exchanges, and this is why. Because I know when somebody comes to me with a 1031 exchange, they're a serious buyer. They're a serious buyer on a serious timeline.
True. Or they can there's also a reverse 1031 exchange, which we won't necessarily get into, but that touches on the first topic.
Sure.
By the way, you and I did a long video about 1031 exchanges,
we did.
I think.
Yeah,
so check out the libraries of information. Okay, next question comes from TENNESSEN. I've known Tom a long time. He says, I've noticed realtor.com highlights homes for sale with assumable mortgages, probably VA loans. Is this a big enough trend or too small for this market? I tagged him in the comment because you just kind of went through this.
So let me say this. So there are not, you'll notice, on the listings, if you go into like realtor.com or us as realtors, if we go into the MLS and we search properties with assumable mortgages, you'll find like in Sarasota, I think I did it a couple weeks ago, within a certain price range. There's not hardly any there.
There's barely.
There's barely anything.
I've never done one. I've actually never done one.
Now, I have clients right now that I ask them in an effort to try to do something different.
Creative.
Like, hey, look.
It is creative.
Is your mortgage assumable? Call your mortgage company. Come to find out, a lot of them are. But there is a hang up there.
There's a huge hang up.
A huge hang up.
Yeah.
This is not an easy thing to do.
And it doesn't sound desirable based on what you're about to say.
So this is the thing. The banks would rather write mortgages on new mortgages at 7% than have you assume somebody's mortgage at 3%.
So they're going to make it really difficult.
They're making it extremely
for
difficult.
both parties.
It's for both parties, and number one, they have to qualify. Number two, there is still going to be a gap. Like, let's say the person has $300,000 left on the mortgage, the property's $500,000. You either have to come up with a difference in cash or take a second type of mortgage to cover that gap, but you're still going to have down payments on.
Okay.
Is it worth going through? Well,
and
look.
Sorry to interrupt, but didn't you say the closings are a lot longer too?
The closings take, and this is the thing. Like, people are like, well, I could just assume this mortgage, I can get it 3%. You can, but like the first client of mine that I had go after one of these, come to find out it was going to take between 3 and 6 months to close the deal.
That's ridiculous.
So, and sellers, generally speaking, they don't want to wait 3 to 6 months to sell the property.
And neither does the buyer.
Yeah, so like it makes it just very, very difficult to transact these properties. And is it impossible? No. But you better have a seller who's in a situation where they're okay with waiting 3 to 6 months to close on the property and get their money. And
they have a low rate enough to make that worthwhile.
And enough money left on the mortgage to make it worthwhile. I have a client right now that's selling her property in Port Charlotte. Her mortgage is assumable. She only has $40,000 left on the mortgage. So it's kind of like, okay, well, you'll save like $80 or $100. It's not worth the time.
So for the most part, unless we're incorrect in some of this, this is not exactly an area that I'm an expert in, but it's a really good question, especially as inventory starts to rise.
Sure.
I think you and I discussed this in detail earlier, and it's a creative way to bring forth buyers to the market or allow them to want to pull the trigger in a creative way.
In a creative way, but it has to almost come together as a perfect situation because generally speaking, a seller that has their property on the market, they want to sell it. They have it on the market because they're looking to sell it and sell it right now, not, well, I'm going to sell it 6 months from now. It's very difficult. Most people don't want to do that.
They want to just take occupancy of the property, and likewise sellers want their money. They usually have a plan, not in every case, but generally speaking, once you're under contract, the 6 month thing doesn't work for like 97 to 100% of people.
Well, and I had like 2 properties, 2 other listings, one that's in Las Palmas and one that's out in Longboat Harbor. There were listings of mine that were assumable mortgages, but once we started figuring out like the time frames, both of my clients said no, take it off the listing. We don't want.
Or they decided to pay cash, and we're like, yes.
Right.
Okay, next question. Rick Babinski. I'm not really sure how to answer this one. Need an education on land trusts and how best to use them?
I'll tell you.
I'm not really sure what that even means.
I would say you need to talk to an attorney. That's not something.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So that's not something that first off, I have never done a land trust.
Is that just a land deal, like a land contract?
Well, usually when I hear land trust, they're talking about taking land and protecting it under a family trust or under a. So I'm gonna be the first one to tell you, never done one, don't know anything about it. I would just say I would refer you right on to a real estate attorney.
I'm sure in my since 2002 career, I'm sure I've done one. I've sold plenty of vacant lots. Is that an abundance of what we do? No. There's just so much land, and a lot of what we do is actually tear down, so that would fall under the residential, but so sorry we didn't really answer that one too much for you, buddy.
I just don't know enough about it. I'll be the first one to say that.
All right, Chris KOVAC, longtime friend. Hey, what upgrades or improvements are truly beneficial before selling? This is definitely a whole video in and of itself. In a nutshell.
That's actually a really great question. So I get this all the time. I'll have somebody who has a single family home, worth $450,000 or $500,000, and they come to me saying, I think I want to put hurricane windows in my property.
I know what you're going to say.
And it's going to be $70,000, $80,000.
You're going to say no.
Absolutely not. Absolutely
I know you
not.
so well.
You'll never get the money out of that. that only makes sense if you're in a property that's a million and a half or plus.
Unless they have an affinity toward noise and, you know, they're worried about hurricane. I mean, if they're going to enjoy it.
In a $450,000 house, if you're thinking about selling.
For selling. Okay.
And you're putting 70 or 80 grand into
you're not going to get it back.
It better be something that you're going to get every penny of it back.
I doubt you're going to get it back.
Right.
I would say if I had to pick between, because we have he knows the property. There's a property that's for sale and they put hurricane impact windows in. It's under 600. It's overpriced. But I said for that property, they should have put a pool in instead for a 100%. Similar investment.
100%.
That would have been the best investment.
Yeah, and if you had asked me 4 years ago, 5 years ago, and what's funny is though, when pools were cheaper, a lot cheaper, if you had said, hey, is it worth putting a $45,000, $50,000 pool in a property, I'd be like, nah,
now
probably not.
It is.
Now? Absolutely.
Yeah.
It really is
faster.
changing. Because the prices of pools have gone up so high, it's really changed that, like, if the property has a pool there,
done.
And or you know,
even
you
if
put
it's on
one
a main road, because I sold one recently on a main road with a pool, and the other two finally just went under contract. But they took a lot longer to sell, even though one was on a main road without a pool, other was across the street without a pool. Ours sold first.
Right.
But so when we're looking at the comps, that's just one example. Other than that, I would just say kitchen and baths.
Kitchen, baths, and roof. Your roof is huge. If you have an old roof, and we just ran into this with one of our listings, if you have an older roof, it is really tough. The first question people are asking now when they come into any listing, and honestly, I'm even having this question asked of me in condos where the HOA is responsible for the roof, and people are still asking, I know I'm not responsible for the roof. I know it's not my money. It's not my responsibility.
It's a little different conversation, though.
It's a little bit different conversation, but it's the first question everybody's asking. Every single listing, every single showing I'm having right now, the first question they ask is, how old is the roof? When is it going to need to be done? Will it pass a wind mitt? So trying to figure out how much is my insurance going to be.
These are big ticket items that we recommend. Okay, Sean DREZNIN. Specialists versus general practitioners, ? Area specialist, type of property specialist. Are there benefits to master of one versus jack of all? Yeah.
I like, look, you're going to see with realtors a lot. You're going to see they have all these initials behind their name. And I just don't.
Doctors?
Right, exactly. And I don't. My feeling personally is you want a realtor that's transacting a lot of properties every year.
Volume.
A lot of volume in all different price ranges.
Well, volume or units.
I
guess depending on your market.
Super important. Yeah, and I think units
depending on your market.
Yeah, because like somebody who comes to me from the Midwest
and
they're like, hey, look, I sold 40 homes, but the volume was only $12 million. Yes, but you're transacting a lot of properties.
You're regularly.
That's what you want. I always get concerned when somebody is like, well, I only do waterfront. Oh, really? So you wouldn't take a property that's off the water? That's not true.
So
we do everything.
I market my ad dollars and everything is going toward luxury and waterfront.
Right.
And, I feel like I've put my time in and I've put my expertise toward that.
Sure.
But I have a listing coming up in Venice that is a fixer upper $325. I've known this person for a very long time. They're friends.
Sure.
Then you'll get something in Lakewood Ranch. Do I market to Lakewood Ranch? Not necessarily, but do I know a lot about these other areas? Yeah. There's only there's a limited amount of funds, right, for us because we pay for our advertising for the most part.
Sure.
And there's a limited. I think there's enough business for everybody, but it's better to be in real estate, hyper focused versus all over the map.
Well, and I also would caution people, if your realtor's got 75 different sets of initials behind their name,
it's impressive though.
It's impressive. Well, what is the qualifications for it? There is one qualification.
I know what you're going to say.
There's one qualification that does matter because you do have to qualify for it, and that's your certified luxury home specialist.
CLHMS.
So if you see CLHMS behind their name, what that means is they've sold, I believe it's 2 or 3 properties over what qualifies as luxury in their neighborhood or their area.
Within a very short time frame.
Within a year.
And you have to maintain it each year if you want to keep the designation.
So you'll find that because not only is it a real couple day class that highly focuses people on like what is luxury real estate, how do you market yourself in your market. So if you go to the Midwest, if you were in Chicago, a luxury real estate in Chicago, my guess is probably in the 800,000 to 900 and above range.
Yeah.
In Sarasota, it doesn't count unless it's $1.2 million or $1.3 million, I think, and above.
Beverly Hills is probably what, 5 million?
Probably 5 million is
above.
like your minimum and above. So it's specific to your area, but it's a real designation in the sense that some of these designations you're seeing.
It means something.
Yeah, some of these designations you're seeing are somebody went online for 30 minutes and clicked a bunch of stuff, and now all of a sudden they're a specialist in whatever.
Who knows?
CLHMS.
And the public doesn't know.
Well, the public doesn't know, but a CLHMS, it's first you have to qualify for it. Once you qualify, you have to register for the class, which is only given at certain times through the year.
Send documentation.
You have to send documentation in showing that, like, I sold properties, enough properties that qualify me to even take the class. Once you qualify,
it's a great class and a great.
Once the class is held, it's 3 days, I believe, 3 or 4 days, and like. You have to attend. You have to be interactive.
There's certain hours.
There's certain hours that have to be put into it. So that's a real qualification.
And actually, not to go down a super rabbit hole with this particular topic, but there within the institute, the CLHMS Institute, there's also the Guild, which is a step above that, which is more like the top tier within the institute. Which of course I'm a member of. We're members of. It's the CLHMS and the Guild. So those are great. So. In a nutshell, yes, it's better to be a master of your trade in a very specific type of market. Like for us, like we work Anna Maria to Minnesota, but that's mostly island properties, mostly luxury, mostly
waterfront.
Second home, waterfront. That's a specialty.
Right, but we do everything. Like I have a
100%.
tiny condo off the water. We have a house in Palmer Ranch right now, a listing that's 750-ish. We have all these different properties.
Diverse.
But I guess my big thing is don't get baffled by nonsense of this guy's got 75 initials behind his name and he's okay. My next question would be, well, great, that's fantastic. Looks like you put some time into your education. How many properties did you sell last year? Well, 1.
Well, and some
people
some people are really into just
taking classes,
the actions of sitting down and taking courses and the education part of it, which I do think is great, but to what extent is that a detriment in your selling career as well as just putting the actions and the work in? Again,
you learn more by just selling property.
Just start doing it.
Just go selling property.
Again, we're like, it's impressive that people have that many designations after their name, but if you have to pick and choose like we do our market share and our marketing that we do, it's better to be.
Sure.
That was a long answer for you, Sean.
I know.
So next, I'm going to skip this one and do this one last. 2 more questions. One from JOANN STRUT. She is a new home specialist. Of course, she would ask, how easy is it to purchase a brand new home? Quick answer.
It's pretty easy.
They make it easy.
Is it harder than purchasing? Maybe a little bit, but at the end of the day, you also have a lot more resources. Like there are different mortgages that are open to you as a new home buyer. It's actually a touch easier than it is for somebody who's buying their second, third, or fourth home.
I would say from the agent's perspective, it's super easy because we walk in and they do all the work. They have a contract. Each builder has their own contract.
Right.
Not to mention they incentivize the heck out of you as a buyer because it's hard for the lender and a title company outside of the builder to compete with it. So everything is in-house. It's a well-oiled machine, so to speak.
Now, you want a realtor to represent you on a new home buy.
You do.
Every single time.
You should.
This is why. I'm not going to say who it is, but there's a builder here in town that they really cut corners and they tend to not want to pay the realtors. So what happens is a lot of times the realtors invariably start pointing out, well, here's all the defects that you're seeing in their houses. You can look on their websites and there's people complaining about it. But the thing is that they tend to try to push the realtor out of the deal. so that they're representing both sides. There's a cost savings to the builder that way. And then what ends up happening is when there's issues, you don't have anybody to go to bat for you.
Not to mention when the market's good and easy and fast,
Right.
they are quick to, not all of them, just very few. We're
Right.
just talking about the few that stand out, and I know who you're talking about. We'll cut the realtors out. Well, when the realtors bring 80 to 90% of the buyers and procuring those sales,
Right.
and you're so quick to turn us away, guess who's going to remember that when there's
Right.
an abundance of inventory? We will. So,
We will.
yeah,
and
but it is easy. I would say it's very easy to
it's
buy. Dude.
very
easy.
very
JOANN,
easy.
you know.
Yep.
Last but not least, Melissa Terry. Shout out to Melissa and Brandon. They are one of my preferred lenders, actually. She's asking, last but not least, a day in the life of a realtor.
Oh my gosh. I mean, every day is different, so that's a very thing.
Let's start with what time you wake up.
You and I, we start work generally at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
Like most days, and that doesn't mean I'm up at my computer. A lot of
you're
times
waking up.
I'm usually waking up. I'm on my cell phone, like kind of planning my day out. Like, what do I have today? What do I need to work on? And I don't work from 4 a.m. until midnight every day.
There's
I work
breaks
from
in
4
the day.
a.m. probably for about half an hour, 45 minutes to kind of plan my day. Sometimes, if it's a slow day, I may go right back to sleep. But a lot of times it's 4 a.m. till 5, and then I get up and kind of get around and then start working on my computer a little bit and try to knock out all the stuff that I can knock out
Early without
outside-
having to call people.
well, and outside of hours.
Right,
Like, I'm very cognizant of, this is something that I can only do between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. And this is stuff I can do outside of that, and pushing those things
Efficient,
outside
being
of it. So
efficient.
efficiency with my time.
How many realtors do you think wake up at 4?
Not a lot, but
Like the
look,
only
and,
ones.
and I don't know that, my days are very, very different during season versus right now.
Yeah.
So like during season, usually we are working 4 a.m. until late at night. Right now we're out of season. I do have 4 listings right now, but like it's really slow. And so I don't have as many showings. I don't have as much activity going on. So this tends to be when things are slower and I'm not really hustling and working as hard or as much as I would during season. Now come October, usually right on October 1st, all of a sudden we just go from
Hit the ground running.
Yeah, and so it's you go from I'm going to take my vacation or any time off before that,
September,
because October 1st,
Yeah.
away we go. It's really busy.
Real quick in a nutshell for me, up at 3:30, get to the gym by 5, come back, eat, dogs, all the admin, all the most important emails out of the way.
Yep.
We go out on appointments earlier, especially as it gets hot like this. We
Right.
tend to be, when we have to be in and out, especially outside door knocking
Sure.
and stuff like we're going to do today. Try to get that done first thing in the morning, because come 2-3 o'clock, it's boiling.
It's too hot.
That's when we want to get back in the AC,
Right.
do like phone calls, follow-ups,
Yep.
contract work. Just, planning and scheduling is a lot of what we do.
Right.
And organizing. I'm like super organized. You're not
I am not.
as
I'm not.
at all.
Yeah.
But you have your business, I have mine, and we do some things together,
Sure.
and it works out well. And then there's office there's all kinds of things that you can fill your day with, but are you being productive? So it's constantly like lead generation, getting to the contract, getting offers, showings. It's always about like getting our listings sold first,
Sure.
then our company, and then everybody else's, right? And then buyers.
Right.
Well, all buyers mixed in. So anyway, I know that was a really we answered all your questions, but rapid fire.
Rapid fire. And I
thank
mean,
you.
Yeah,
Thank you for asking.
That's kind of a good kind of thing to jump through and try
Random
and answer as
video.
many questions as we can. It's always interesting to me, like, we talk real estate all day long, but
we want to know what you
we
want to
want to know what
know.
you guys want to hear about, and
Yeah.
some of this stuff, unfortunately, we don't know the answers to. I mean,
And you know what? We're not
Yeah.
going to pretend to, but we
No.
have great resources that point you in the right
Absolutely.
direction, so you're getting the
Absolutely.
right advice.
Right.
And that's a beautiful thing to have a really healthy, good list of vendors
Sure.
from us. So please reach out to us anytime, whether you're thinking of selling or you need a vendor or referral of some kind,
Sure.
a painter, a handyman, whatever. Handymen are really hard to find, by the
They're
way, but we
really
won't get
hard.
into that. So I can be reached at 941-544-7690.
And you can call me anytime at 941-586-2460.